don't we go ahead and get started?
Exactly.
This is being
God.
recorded.
Like,
So, welcome everybody to this virtual panel discussion, technology and tools to leverage your business and bring value to your clients. As a reminder, all the resources that will be mentioned and recordings of previous discussions are on our COVID-19 resource page at nsaspeaker.org/COVID-19. During tonight's discussion, we'll discuss technology at a higher level. We'll address some insights on the Zoom platform, but we have a series of deep dives scheduled with Marquesa on April 9th and April 16th and April 23rd for those of you who wish to delve a bit deeper into the specifics of using Zoom. The links have been posted in the chat, and they can also be found on our resource page. As always, we encourage you to submit your questions to the Q&A feature on Zoom, or if you're joining us on Facebook Live, post your questions in the chat, and Matt will feed them over to the panelists. So let's welcome tonight's panelists, Beth Z, AKA your nerdy best friend, Marquesa Pettway, AKA the Zoom Queen, and Robert Kennedy III.
I don't get an AKA. What's happening?
it's a third person.
Listen, AKA RK3. How about that one? I got a
Oh,
list.
there
Woo! All right, there we go.
Well, so RK3, why don't we start with you? One of the key actions in virtual events is reaching out to your customers before and after the event.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that our members could be doing right now to set themselves up for success in this area?
Well, one of the things that I know happens to me is that you get contacts before the event, you get contacts after the event. Sometimes you may get an entire list, a spreadsheet, and you upload it and you chuck them into your CRM, and you keep doing that over and over again. And after a while, this thing just becomes unwieldy, unmanageable. You're using it, but you're seeing duplicates, you're seeing stuff, and you're not sure of what's the latest information. So right now, I don't know about everybody else, I'm using this as a time to get organized with my CRM. I'm downloading or exporting the CSV and working with getting rid of duplicates. Some CRMs allow you to do that duplicate removal inside of it. There are other third-party tools like Deduply that may help get rid of some of that stuff, but getting rid and cleaning up is a big task that's going to be helpful to you just a little bit later on. If you need to do tagging people to specific events and remembering where you met them, what's their industry, or what their organization is. Some of those organizational tasks are things that you can be doing right now to help you get set for that next push.
That's awesome. What else? So CRMs are super, super important. What else could members be doing? What are you guys doing right now that's setting yourself up for success? Marquesa?
Well, yes. One of the things I did, I realized that I was using my CRM incorrectly for years. So a lot of business fell between the cracks, meaning at that time I used Infusionsoft, and Infusionsoft has their own CRM. Now I use Kajabi, which has its own CRM. However, a CRM with a big tool like that has an entirely different purpose. So now I have an independent CRM, which I've had for the last 2 years. I use Nimble because of Robert, and I love it. And I did a trial with several different ones to figure out which one fit my personality. And since I live on social media, more specifically Facebook, I found that it was friendly. I could literally put in someone's Facebook page right into Nimble, and it would automatically populate all the information. And just like Robert said before, in terms of tagging and organizing and sales funnel, it does all of the above. So yeah, so for me, I needed to, first of all, make it independent. That was huge.
Well, I think that's a really interesting point, because there are a lot of applications that include a CRM. Those are not your full robust CRMs, right? So, but what about for people who don't yet have a CRM? Robert, what are some of the processes and what can they do if they don't have a CRM yet?
Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Robert.
I am so sorry. Thank you about that. I thought I was a pro, but I got found out. Fraud. Okay. Anyway, so one of the things that people can be doing with a customer relationship management tool. If you don't have an application that fits you just yet, and you may be using Excel as a place to track the way that they track your contacts. At the very minimum, having a place to put down their contact information, when was the last time that you contacted them, and anything important that you had in that conversation. It's really good to have some columns that you're doing with that, and then setting up something on your calendar so that you come back to check that very regularly. Now, in my CRM, one of the things that I do in my dashboard in the contacts area, I make sure that I select it or I sort it by when was the last time I contacted somebody. So that's one thing that they could be doing with Excel. If you have your information inside of Excel, there's another application that I use, and this is outside of a CRM, but one of the purposes of CRM is really to help you follow up with people. So there's an app that I use, and it's not really an app, it's just kind of a system. It automates certain things, called followupthen.com. And so what I do is, if I have a conversation with a prospect via email, I'll send an email to them to recap our conversation. And let's say that I want to follow up with them in 2 months. I'll put in the BCC 2 months at followupthen.com. And in 2 months, I get a reminder automatically reminding me to connect with that person to revisit that conversation. And it's a part of the email thread as well. So I'll see all of the prior information.
Awesome. Now, Beth, you literally wrote the book on apps. What other tools could people use if they don't have a CRM?
Confession time. I don't have a CRM. What? I know. Like many speakers out there, I have struggled. I've tried them. I've done different trials. I've paid for them for a year, what have you. I haven't settled on anything yet. And so my point about this is, no matter what system you use, do something. Somewhere, somehow, you have a list of people who have paid you, whether it's in your invoices or your emails or in e-speakers. You have a list of people who have paid you. How are you connecting with them? Right now, sit down and think about them rather than thinking about you. They are in chaos right now. Write them a note. Send them, there's some tech tools that I can talk to you about. Send them little tech gifts. Like, for example, gifts, not gifts. That's something different and fun as well. But send them little fun presents, like go back to their webpage, go back to their last event and take pictures and then put them in a little movie using a tool called Magisto, Magisto, or Animoto, or just put them in a little, heck, you can use a tool like Felt. It's an app that lets you choose 3 or 4 pictures, and then it makes an accordion hard copy piece of mail that you send for like $15 a month. You get like 3 of them that you can send. It's fantastic with postage, but make something special for them and send them out to them. Think about them and all the people you've worked with, and then think about the people you might have worked with. Check your email if you don't have a CRM. Check the lists you have or what have you, and think about how you can reach out to them. Let's go with BombBomb /Dubb, DUBB /Loom. All of these different things will let you do that video email that talks directly to them, that gives them your look, your conversation, rather than just another email. See how you can reach out and really make a connection with people who are just as lost in the whole events world as you are right now.
So are all those apps in your book?
What? They are. What an amazing thing. Thank you for asking.
Well, and for everybody attending, Beth is donating a digital copy of her book to all NSA members.
That's because no one buys it. So please download it. I hope you enjoy it. And there are lots of different tips in there. It's got 560 some odd apps in there, and only 520 have all gone out of business since I wrote it in November. Just joking. It's good.
So, Robert,
Yep.
If you don't have a CRM, you're ready for a CRM, just at a high level, what are some things you should consider?
Well, for me, Marquesa said this perfectly earlier. Your applications or your CRMs, whatever tools you use, should really fit you, your personality. So for me, I'm a bit of an interface snob. My CRMs, my applications, they've got to look pretty. They've got to be pleasing to me. So there are some CRMs that I've tested out in the past, and they were good technically, but I just didn't like looking at them, so I didn't use them. And I felt guilty about that at first, but I don't anymore. So you've got to ask yourself some questions. You've got to have a list of questions that this is like a relationship, right? What are your filters for this? So some of the questions you can be asking yourselves are things like, do I need something that helps me to track deals well? Does it take me from one sequence or one phase of the conversation to the next? Are there things, do I want easy access to conversations or threaded conversations? Okay. Do I have a sales team? Do I have a group of people that need to get in to follow the conversations and follow the tracking? Is there reporting? Is there a dashboard that it has that is customizable that I can move around how I want to? Does it connect to social media? Does it connect to Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook? Or do I have to grab that information manually? What integrations does it have? So you've got to come up with your own list of criteria that are important to you, and then apply those and use the heck out of your free trials. Use them. And in some cases, some companies are so desperate to get you that they will extend your free trial for another 30 days. Don't be shy about asking for that.
Well, I know one of the things that I hadn't thought of until I went to transition to a new CRM is another consideration is how accessible is your data.
Yeah.
So there's some systems where, for example, your notes might be proprietary.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of need those. So it makes switching really, really difficult.
Yeah.
Marquesa, what else would you add? Because you mentioned you went with nimble. You mentioned you needed something with your personality. What would you add when selecting a CRM?
Well, I wanted something that allowed me to follow up better. I'll admit following up is not my strong suit. So I needed something that would almost act as an assistant. And that's what I thought about Nimble. First of all, I can track everything. And Robert mentioned earlier, tags. So literally I can tag, all right, this person brought this product, this person brought this product, and it will remind me to follow up. And then I like that it talks to Google, because I use the whole Google business suite. So I need my apps to talk to each other. So when you're considering what you're going to buy, if you're going to buy these different systems, do they talk to your email and make it easy? So now I can send you an email, Mary Lou, and automatically Nimble will say, all right, we'll make sure she's in the database. So I like when it's kind of like it's human or something. Yeah.
So let's kind of go from here to holding virtual events, because I've seen a lot of people say, I'm holding a virtual event, and they basically try to just deliver their keynote as if they were in person, and that's a disaster. Beth, once you have your outreach process in place, whether you use a CRM or whether you use other tools, what are some of the pre-event experience that you can create for your customers so this is a holistic experience?
There are lots of ways I think you can do that. Actually, I'm so excited to hear what Marquesa has to say about this category, because she has so much insight into here. When you're doing it, all depends on what your purpose is for that event. And again, Marquesa is going to talk about starting with that and moving backwards to create your virtual event. But in thinking about your virtual event, can you poll people beforehand in various ways through your system or through Google Forms or what have you, so that you're getting the information you need to do it? Can you get them to send pictures of themselves that you're going to do something with? People love to see their own pictures. People love to see their own names. People love to get that interaction. And if you get all that stuff done beforehand, you're going to get more people on there. For example, I just did this little thing where I asked people to send pictures of their pets from their home offices. I had more than 100, and I made a video that everybody is sharing with all these pictures of all these pets and all these home offices. And that's a way to get them interested in what you're about to say and set your event coming up for success.
I really love the pets idea because I would rather give a picture of my pet than a picture of myself. And it doesn't feel
dogs and
creepy if
babies.
it's a pet.
Mm-hmm. Exploit
So, Marquesa, what are some of the different ways of delivering a virtual event? And what do you do ahead of time to set yourself up for success?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, really think about what you're going to call your virtual event. We're professional speakers. Right now, the world is doing something virtual. And so I think it's important for us to not just call our virtual events webinars. That's how it gets lost. We're going to be one of many. We want to stand out. We're experts, right? And this is just a different way to deliver our message. So initially start off with, okay, what is the goal and purpose of my virtual event? Then once you decide what the goal and purpose of it, then put it into a virtual meeting category or choose the type of virtual meeting you want to put on. So whether I'm meeting with my corporate clients and asking them, what is the goal of your event? How many people will participate in this event? What are the outcomes? What do you want them to do? I will ask them these questions, and then based on their answers, we'll decide, all right, this is a workshop, which means folks are going to work, or this is a seminar, which means it's an all-day thing, or this is a think tank, which means all of the executives will all have something to say and share their results. And it goes, or this is a retreat. Here's a piece that's really, really important, and I can't say it enough. When someone hears the word webinar, then Mary Lou, you said it earlier, it means, oh, it's a talking head. It's just a person that's going to talk and show a lot of slides. I can appreciate webinars. I put on webinars. But just like when you speak in person, you're not always training, you're doing keynotes, you're doing all sorts of things. The same rules apply to the virtual world. It's important for us to not just put them in one category. So I go from, what is the purpose of this virtual event? And then what can we do to make it exciting? Then I ask the question of engagement choices. I give my clients a whole list of the different ways that we can engage. So for example, hot seats may be one of the ways that we engage, or discussions, or Q&A chat, deep dive, round robin. Keep it interactive. If the last thing I would say about this is, please do not be a talking head. Do not take what you do in person and just put it on a Zoom and start talking. It will bore folks to death. Instead, think to yourself, how can I create an experience? How can I do something that's going to keep people's attention while accomplishing the outcome of why we're doing this in the first place?
So Marquesa, you talk about like hot seats. When I think about that for our members in the speaking industry, it might be a hot seat, might be you deliver a snippet of your speech and then people give you feedback. What would it be for your customers though? What would a hot seat look like?
Well, a hot seat, and this is Zoom world. So first, before you just go into the technology, you go, oh, I want to try this. Oh, I want to try that. Mm-hmm. Then you overwhelm yourself because Zoom is awesome. There's so many bells and whistles. I love it. But if you approach it with what technology can I use, you'll lose the purpose of why all of these different things are available to you. So once you've figured out what is the goal of this virtual event, what kind of experience do I want to deliver, then you go into the engagement choices, such as a hot seat. Then you ask yourself, what tool does Zoom offer where I can do hot seats? Guess what? It's literally clicking the 3 dots right above your participants' heads and spotlighting the person who's in the hot seat. And when you spotlight them, their video is bigger than anybody else. So then you can put them in the hot seat. You can either laser coach them, ask them to share an experience, whatever it is, depending on your event. So first identify the engagement practice and then ask yourself, how can I use the Zoom platform? Because I don't know why you want to use anything else. How can I use the Zoom platform to make that happen? If you decided to do a discussion, what's the perfect thing to do a discussion? Does anyone know? Breakouts. That's where the breakout. Don't just say, I'm going to do some breakouts. Let's do it. And then put people in the breakout rooms and they don't know what to do. Hey guys, we're going to break up for about 20 minutes and I'm going to put you in groups, no more than about 5 or 7 in a group. And while you're there, you're going to do X, Y, and Z. And then I'm going to pop around to see how you guys are all doing. So remember the purpose, the experience, then identify the Zoom tool that's going to make that work.
So you talked about workshops, seminars, think tanks, and retreat. What it sounds like is you would want to know that information and you would use Zoom. In your case, you would use Zoom differently. How would you use Zoom differently between a workshop and a seminar?
Ooh, okay. Well, I consider a workshop an opportunity for my Zoom participants to do some work. So what I would do, usually a workshop is about 3 hours or less, or it could be 90 minutes. I will put in some work time and ask everyone to mute themselves. And then literally they're working, but we're still seeing each other. Here's a big strategy. I insist that all of my Zoom participants share their face. The phone does not work well in this situation, because think about it. If you break out people, and then of the few people that's in your breakout session, if half of them have their phone showing, then you're disengaged. So that's why when I invite folks to my Zoom, I will only send them the Zoom link. I do not provide the phone number. That is really important. So for a workshop, it's usually we all start off together, and then what I'll do is give them a chance to work on whatever assignment that is a result of whatever we discuss. So we can either put them in breakout rooms to do that, or everyone just sort of sits on Zoom, mutes themselves out, and then literally will do work. Because sometimes we just want to, especially now with this whole COVID situation, sometimes we just need to see another human being. So that's a good way to do it. A seminar, because I've heard a lot of my fellow speakers say, hey, I need to spend 6 or 7 hours. That really happens. My advice is please mix it up. This is where I need you to do hot seats, discussions, Q&A, deep dive, round robin, ask an expert, you name it, mix it up, just mix it up. One thing I learned whenever I would speak in person, a person loses their attention span changes every 90 seconds. So in the virtual world, can you imagine the attention span? So what can I do? So maybe for 10 or 15 minutes, we do this. Another 10 or 15 minutes, we do this. So for a seminar, it's just a longer length of time. And maybe I'm going deeper. Maybe I'm doing a lot of deep dives. That may be an example of that. So I will literally sit down and design this whole thing with the goal of what is the experience that I want my participants to have. It's not just about the content, it's making sure that the content reaches them.
So Robert, that's very, very good advice, Marquesa. And I love the idea of thinking about this as an experience and not just taking what you do live and trying to do it via Zoom, because that's just not going to be as effective. Robert, even though the event may be virtual, it's still your brand as a speaker. So what are some tips for keeping up the professionalism and keeping congruent with your brand?
I love the way that you phrased that. Two things you said, keeping on brand and that we are professional speakers. And I'm not saying that we are not human beings, but as speakers, when we are in front of the room, when we are the expert, when we are the delivery mechanism for the content, people are paying attention to us. And there are little things that if we're not careful can draw their attention away from the message that we ultimately want them to hear. And some of those things are in our environment. So here's some of the things that I'm seeing right now. I won't call any names, but here's some of the things that I'm seeing with speakers. Okay, they're hopping on Facebook Live and they're doing Facebook sessions. Okay, and they're delivering content and they're not paying attention to simple things in their environment. For example, lighting. If I'm sitting and there is a window behind me and the light is coming in through the window, all I see as a participant is a silhouette. You're like a ghost, right? You're like a shadow. And if I don't see your facial expressions, if I don't know that you're smiling or you're being cheeky or sarcastic or witty, I don't know any of that stuff if I'm just seeing the shadow. And that's something very simple that can cause people to lose interest or lose attention. All right. So you want them to be able to see you, get to know you, because ultimately the big word in speaking is connection. right? You want to be able to have them do that. So make sure whatever light source you're using is in front of you. You don't have to go to the supermarket. Well, you can't go to the supermarket now, but you don't have to go to Best Buy or wherever to get a ring light or anything, the soft boxes. You don't have to do all of that. If you have a window in your room, simply turn around, let the sunlight, let the sun shine in, let the sunlight shine on your face. And that's almost like the best light, and photographers will tell you that, right? So that's one thing. Second thing that people should be aware of also is your background. A lot of times the background is super busy. It's not every background that is a usable background. So you'll see that Marquesa's background, there are pictures in the background, but she has them blurred so that the focus is on her. Beth's background is red and there's a picture. So Beth is the center of focus there. And Beth has a red top that is kind of matching with her background, right? So we want to pay attention. Yeah, we want to pay attention to the color. So if my background is like your background, Mary Lou, is a beige wall background, and that's great, a flat background. If you had a beige shirt on, it wouldn't necessarily work as well because there's no contrast. So we want to pay attention to things like the contrast, the color, the lighting, and of course, how you sound. If you don't have an external mic, you want to make sure that at least at the very minimum, your room is quiet and you're not distracted by trains, planes, and automobiles and everything else, right? You want to make sure that it's quiet enough. But if you have the ability to get an external microphone, even if it's the microphone and earbuds from your that you use with your phone, use that, because that cancels or diminishes some of the ambient room noise. So those three things, light, background, and sound, are some things that are really going to help create a more professional look for you as a speaker and help you to be on brand.
Excellent. Marquesa, what are some best practices for virtual engagements?
Yes, I love this question. All right. So I want to go back to the different ways you interact and kind of connect it with Zoom a little bit. I talked about hot seats. So use Spotlight, which means that person's video is bigger than everybody else. Discussions. This is a fantastic opportunity to use breakouts. Here's a little tip. Please go into your Zoom settings. Look at all the Zoom settings and decide which one really rocks with me. Do not enable everything. But one of the things when it comes to breakouts is enable breakouts. Otherwise, it will not work. And you can upload the breakouts, breakout assignments in advance. So that's one of the cool things that Zoom will allow you to do. Q&A. This is a great opportunity to ask folks what's in chat. Like somebody asked earlier, do I ask my Zoom participants to turn their video on? I absolutely do. My members will tell you, you cannot sit up here showing your avatar, your picture. I want to see your face. And I will, as the host, I will ask to start your video because again, I want us to connect and I want you to connect to everyone that's on there. So use the chat, use the Q&A section, because if there's a lot of questions and you're speaking, you will turn away from the chat. So if you don't have a producer or somebody else that's co-hosting with you, you're going to miss a question. Use the Q&A section. Deep dive, that's where that could be a keynote or a mini keynote. This is where you use Spotlight. You can also use your shared screen and share a visual. Let me see what you're talking about, especially if it's a lot of information, I can get lost. Show me a visual. You can use the whiteboard. When you hit share, there's a whiteboard. That's an option that comes up that you can just type in. If you're a terrible drawer like I am, you can just type things in. I love to mind map. So I'll share my screen and I'll pull up MindNote. Round robin, this is something where, again, I will spotlight whoever's speaking at the moment. Now, this is the bigger piece. Make a decision on which role you're going to play with each and every virtual event. Here are some choices: speaker, trainer, facilitator, coach, producer, MC, host. Sometimes you're doing all of the above, and sometimes you're doing parts of it. And this is a great way to also kind of build up your fee or really qualify your fee because you're playing different roles. I was on with a B2B client today, and I'm playing producer. So I have someone that comes in that will handle the breakouts because only one person per Zoom session is allowed to handle the breakouts. Then I will also serve as the host, the MC, and the speaker. So be very clear about those roles and how they will add to the experience. Then go with the bells and whistles you see behind me, such as a virtual background, live streaming, music, a laugh track, branding, tracking, that sort of thing. So those would be some of the ways to keep that audience engaged and, again, make it an experience and not just a webinar.
Awesome. So Beth, what are some alternatives to Zoom? Say, Marquesa, plug your ears, say you don't want to use Zoom. What are some alternatives out there?
Blasphemy. What? How can we with the wonderful opportunity we have through NSA to get a higher level? Now, here's the deal. First, I want to address perhaps some of the things that people have heard about Zoom lately. Zoom has, this week, Zoom got in trouble for claiming it had end-to-end encryption. And some of the people who are now watchdogs of Zoom, because Zoom has gotten so popular, you've got a lot of the tech watchdogs looking very deeply into their capabilities. So people said they claim end-to-end encryption, which means from the beginning of your thing to the end of your thing, nobody can ever read or see what you have done. Wrong. Zoom employees themselves can see inside there. So that's one of the things that people are concerned about. Zoom says, oh, but we're not selling that, and that's great, and I love Zoom. I was Zoom when nobody else was Zoom. I was Zoom. But people are really examining these things. Another thing is that you may have heard Zoom had a problem with a couple of bugs that let people control your computer if they came in from a different way. And then Zoom has had a problem with Zoom bombing, where horrible people with nothing better to do will pop into Zooms because it's kind of an open door and share horrible pictures or moon people. They've got, it's not funny. It's not funny. But students have been mooning teacher classrooms. Yes, they get together and they do that. It's just stupid. So there are some protections you can do, but Zoom has gotten in trouble with these things, which is why you might want to consider some of the other major categories. I'm going to tell you two, you already know them, but they both have free versions. GoToMeeting and WebEx. They both have very similar characteristics. They don't have, I don't think, the breakout room situation. I don't remember in the free versions, but WebEx has just upped the quality of the free plan by a kabillion amount just because of this coronavirus. I was looking at it today. So these are two things that you could use. Zoom is also having such high volume that there has been some challenges with performance. So just some things to consider. You've got other capabilities and other things to do.
So some of the security issues with Zoom you'll have in a lot of the other platforms as well too. I liked where you made a comment, I think before this started, that Zoom's become the Microsoft, right? So when people want to hack into stuff, they don't focus on Apple, they focus on Microsoft because that's the majority of computers have Microsoft. So that would be why like people are looking into the encryption and thing with Zoom at a deeper level than with some of the others. And then Marquesa, how do you stop Zoom bombing?
Well, first of all, I just, I won't say that. Keep it clean. Now, to protect your Zoom sessions, here are some quick tips, and you can find these simply by Googling. One of them is, I love waiting room. You guys do know about the waiting room feature of Zoom. It's literally like going to a doctor's office and you're sitting in the waiting room. And I love it because sometimes your sessions will go over, or for different reasons, you want that waiting room. So step one, go into your Zoom panel in the back end and enable waiting room. Secondly, put some words in the waiting room that lets folks know that you see them. And thirdly, enable the waiting room to keep the Zoom bots out. because then that means you have to let in each and every person. If you're going to have a large group, guys, bring on a Zoom VA or teach your VA how to, again, manage that piece and give them a list and say, these are the people that are allowed to come in. Something else to consider is providing a password. That way, that password, if the person doesn't use the password, they cannot come in. Do not, here's some other things too. Change screen sharing to host only. I will do this depending on the purpose of the virtual event that I'm doing, but make it to where everyone can't share their screen. Guys, disable join before host. You can do that. I do not want someone to join my Zoom before I do. In some cases, you'll literally join the Zoom that you were just in last time, and that is somebody, people join my Zoom all the time. So because I have, you cannot join before the host, then they will get a message from Zoom saying you got to wait on host. So that's a good way to sort of deter the bad guys. It says disable file transfer. I don't like to do that because I love sharing files through Zoom, but that may be a choice if you have a really, really large group. Here's something else. Disable, allow, remove participants to rejoin. So some of this is tech. So my best advice, I'll put this in the chat room, but Google it, PC Magazine, all of them have come out with this. Guys, Zoom is working on this. They are aware of this. Our, what do they call it? Letitia James, what is she? Our governor, not our governor. Oh my goodness, I can't remember. It's a political office anyway. She did a huge thing towards Zoom to get Zoom to make security a little bit better. Like you said, Mary Lou, Zoom is the jam. It's the big deal. So of course there's going to be some security issues, but they're working on making things work. But whatever you can do to protect your Zoom, because I don't know about you, but I go to church on Zoom every Sunday, and I do not want someone bombing my church group or the little kids' school. Just really look at all of these different things, read those articles, and make that happen prior to your Zoom.
I want to point out what Norm put in the chat as well, because there are people on Facebook Live and I want them to get this one. Norm said, make sure that when you're setting up a Zoom meeting, use the randomly generated meeting number and not your personal meeting ID.
So, you know, we've been talking about virtual meetings, been focused on that as a technology tool because more and more speakers are being asked to do things virtually, or it's a way to get business. So I would ask each of you, starting with you, Robert, how have you seen your business change over the last few weeks? Are you getting more requests for virtual meetings, or are you able to guide people to virtual meetings?
I've had to guide people. So I'll give you a little story about my kids. My kids, of course, had to do virtual classrooms. And so I observed them with their teachers who had never really done this before, and they were kind of struggling in the experience. What I did was I called one of the teachers. I said, hey, would you like me to share with you how you can create a better virtual experience using Zoom? She said, sure. I said, why don't we do it for the entire school? And we did that for all of the staff. This was at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, last week, Tuesday morning. By 12:30, the principal of the school called me and said, oh my gosh, the teacher said that was amazing. Can you do that for another school? I said, nope, I don't want to do it for another school. How about we call the superintendent and do it for the entire district? So we were on the phone with the superintendent by 1:30. This was a Tuesday. The superintendent said, hey, can we do it at 9 a.m. for the entire district on Thursday? 2 days later. Okay, so now I've got an entire district of covering in some areas more than one state. And so now I'm sharing that. So I call a few other friends of mine who are principals or who are administrators. I'm saying, hey, I just ran this with this entire district and these two schools. Is this something that you need? I send them a little abstract and they say, oh my gosh, yes. When can we set this up? So I've had conversations this week about not just the tool itself, but how to effectively engage and run virtual presentations with educational systems, not something that I was necessarily doing from the stage before, although I'm a teacher, 10 years in the classroom. And so I kind of leaned into my background a little bit to share about this current situation and how we can be effective going forward. So don't be afraid to pivot a little bit. Look back at the things that you may have done previously that you've forgotten that you did that you may not be doing currently, but how can you incorporate all of your experiences to help people make it through now?
Well, and I love the creativity with that, and I love the generosity for two reasons. One, it helps us deal with our anxiety when we focus on helping others.
Yeah.
Bertice Berry just did a lovely post on LinkedIn and Twitter about that. But the other thing is, it's reinforcing that to get business now, offer to help first. So you offered to help, and that led to business. And I think this is probably going to change how speakers sell, period. But it's wonderful because you're highlighting your expertise. Beth, what have you seen?
So I'm in technology, and so I've done a number of virtual events and remote events, a lot. And one of the things that happens, and is happening so much right now, is that all of us, are getting bombarded with helpful webinars from random people, or even people we know, or thousands of free get through the virus webinars. And I had one, whatever, a couple of weeks ago, but I had it a couple of weeks ago. And I think that's the key. It's like, okay, we've been there. We've had the shock. We're all working from home. What is next? And so I sat down and thought about what is next for my people. And they started coming to me and saying, we need our people to work more collaboratively in teams. And now it's time to set up that technology. Can you speak on that? Why, yes, I can. So now I've put together a panel of online learning. Marquesa says all these things better than I do. I don't know what they are. They're things people can buy that I would present in on a format like this, where I'm not there. I'm not sure. Marquesa, did I say all those things right?
That's fine.
But I put together a package saying, you are in trouble. You have these needs. You have these members with these needs. They are lost. This is the next step of, oh my gosh, we're in trouble. These are some things to address it. So I kind of listened, same way Robert did, where people were starting to come to me saying, can you help us with this? And then I put together those packages to help other people, even if they hadn't taken a breath to think about the next way they were going to help their people.
Excellent. So Marquesa, I'm interested in your answer because you've done a lot of things virtually for a very long time. And Beth has done a little bit of that. Robert's done a little bit of that, but you've done a lot of that for a long time. How has COVID changed your business, if at all?
Oh, big time. I don't get a lot of sleep. I'm getting a lot of emails, messages, and from press to colleagues to B&B. And what I'm finding is a lot of corporations are trying to figure out, how do we readjust? How do we re-engage? How do we now show up in this virtual environment? So one of the things that I would highly recommend to all of my fellow professional speakers, yes, it's good to know Zoom, know the basics. I'm so glad NSA is allowing me to share the basics with you. But in addition to that, really think about, okay, what are the different ways I can share my expertise virtually? So don't limit yourself to just doing a virtual presentation or let me do a speech. There's some folks that may want to experience you a few weeks in a row. I happen to know Christine Cashin and Tammy, they're doing some kind of storytelling thing, which I think is so fascinating every single Wednesday. There's think outside the box. Heck, throw the box away. Figure out, what can I do? How can I still share what I know or how I know it, but do it in a different kind of way? It may end up being a membership group. It may be a mastermind. It may be a virtual event. Think about doing a virtual event. That could be a 3-hour thing. Or think about doing, you can even do a keynote production. Make sure that you guys attend the NSA Zoom deep dive training, because Robert is going to be my producer. So we're going to have some fun with it. We're going to bring in music, a soundtrack. I'm going to do a little dancing. Isn't that right? Because you want to mix it up. But think of how can I serve my client in different ways. Don't limit yourself to one simple thing. So I hate this situation. I'm living in the city that's the worst hit. So I'm definitely staying inside. I'm waking up in the middle of the night because I'm terrified. But what's keeping me busy is that I'm able to help so many people, because I love this. I love the virtual world. I love Zoom. But it's important to me that my clients and my colleagues do not feel as if they got to know everything about Zoom before they sell it, or everything about Zoom before they go out there and they do it. You have your expertise. As I said earlier, think about how can Zoom help that? But also, how can I take my expertise and just share it in different ways? You can even do laser coaching. You can decide, all right, from 11 to 5, I'm going to have virtual office hours. And you can pop in and ask whatever question you want. And then they can sit in a waiting room and wait. And you can charge a certain amount for that. So there's so many different ways you can go. But I've certainly had an uptick in business for sure.
So, Marquesa, just to be clear, all the stuff that you talk about, it's really about the experience and designing an experience for your customer, regardless of what platform you use, whether it's Zoom or one of the ones that Beth mentioned. But with these platforms, right now, people are feeling lonely, and they're going to start to feel even more lonely the more we have to self-isolate, especially people who are single, or even if you're not single, like, we are social creatures. How can we use these virtual tools to help address some of that? Do we change how we deliver virtual presentations to start with something like just the how are you? I've seen virtual happy hours. What are some ways that we can do that to come together as a community?
I love that. And I'm glad you said that. Absolutely. I understand that there are some parents at home that are Robert knows more about that than I do, that's trying to figure out how to keep the kids busy and still work. And then you have people like me that are single that are thinking, okay, I need human contact or I'm going to go crazy. Now, I have to say, most of the time, everything that I do outside of my Weight Watchers meeting and church, because I don't have time, is mainly all business. So I'm thinking, so for me, it's pretty straightforward with virtual retreats, masterminds, membership groups. Those are the things that I'm doing mainly, or seminars and workshops. But you said it yourself already, Mary Lou. What can you do that's different? And I mentioned Christine Cashin and Tammy Evans earlier, about maybe I'll do a storytelling workshop and then do a little bit every week for a certain amount of weeks. I know that Crystal and Karen, they're coming out with something. What can you do that's a little different that no one else is doing? And how can you start it off differently? One of the lessons, and I'm sure Robert has something to say about this, when you start a live stream, or even you start a Zoom session or something, be careful about starting off with, hey guys, how are you doing? What's up? Get to why I am here. It was Marilyn earlier that asked in the chat room about YouTube. And YouTube teaches you that your first few words is what goes into their SEO. So make sure that those first few words that you use, if you're live streaming, is what's going to get people to listen to you even more. Because if you want to feel those virtual events or whatever, webinars or groups or whatever it is you're doing, that live stream makes all the difference. Kim Becking does an incredible live stream every single day because she talks about resiliency. But every time she starts off with what the problem is, and then she engages people as she goes through her content. And then she takes them off of that and then takes them into a Zoom experience. So different ways.
Okay, so I'm going to ask each of you quickly, beyond CRM and Zoom, what are some of your favorite technology tools that help you bring value to your customers? So let's start with Beth.
Rabbit hole.
What is it?
I said we're going down a rabbit hole. Beth's the app queen. We're gonna be here for like 5 hours now.
This is exciting. I love apps. Come on, hit me.
So I'm gonna share something I just used with the panel I did just the other day. And that was a tool called Designer. It's DESIGNRR.io, I think, or
.io. That's right.
IO. Anyway, Designer lets you make a little magazine of content. You can pull in your blog posts, you can put in information. So I took this panel that we did and I embedded the YouTube video. I put all the information about the panelists in there. I put other information in there, and I made this little virtual booklet. So instead of just having the event, now they had something that physically, virtually, they took away with them with all the resource in them. And it looked cute and it was cute. It took me a little bit longer than humans because I am so incredibly picky about what I end up doing. But they have a free version. I think the paid version was like $29 for a lifetime subscription. And then they try to get you to pay up from there, but who wants to do that? It really made a difference. I think I gave y'all that link to that product as well. I meant to.
You mean that incredible book that you did?
Yes,
Oh
the little
gosh,
booklet
yes.
I did.
Yes, I'll find it while you're talking.
Yes.
It's so good. Oh my goodness, it's so good.
I don't know what's happening. I'm going to stop looking at the chat. So Designer is a fantastic way to give almost a piece of content that you can have to give out.
Excellent. Marquesa, what about you?
I love canva.com. Everyone knows about Canva. But guys, you can do everything but make dinner on canva.com. I mean, not only is it great for virtual backgrounds, kind of like the one I have behind me, it's great for social media backgrounds or headers, anything and everything. I recommend you get the paid version of Canva because it will remember your brand colors. It is amazing. It is, everyone uses Canva here, I know. Another tool I love that I find time is so important to me, and Zoom helps me save a ton of time. And as a side note, I just have to mention that, guys, if you don't have NSA Zoom, what is wrong with you? Because I love all the tools such as the transcription. I love that I literally get, like today, I got right on in front of my Zoom and I did a quick little video and put it on my sales page. So Book Like a Boss comes to mind. That's a tool that I use. It's a scheduling. Book Like a Boss is amazing. To me, it is the best scheduling tool on the planet. Everyone should have a scheduler. Otherwise, you will send an email and say, Robert, when can we meet? 2:30, 3:30, 4:30. That drives me crazy. Instead, I'll send him a link and then he'll book some time on my calendar or vice versa. But Book Like a Boss is an excellent tool. Clients love it. And when they go to it, they're reminded of what you do, what are your services. They can pay you through it. I do not have that part set up for myself, but Book Like a Boss is, I highly, and I did not copy off them with Zoom Like a Boss, but maybe I was inspired by them a little bit. So canva.com, Book Like a Boss is huge. And get the NSA version of Zoom because all of those bells and whistles or unlimited storage, transcription, it makes a world of difference in your business with productivity as well as with performance.
Yeah. I just want to add on to Book Like a Boss. Book Like a Boss it integrates with Zoom. So if somebody books a meeting, it can automatically create a Zoom meeting for you and send it to your client, friend, customer. So you don't have to go into Zoom to create a separate meeting. So that's pretty neat.
Awesome. And we will be posting Beth's ebook on the resource page for those of you that are asking. Don't worry, we'll get you links to that. One thing too, like kind of switching topics just a little bit, is I think I've seen people just behave poorly, especially like on social media. And I was just reading a comment. I was reading a LinkedIn post and then I saw a comment that was kind of nasty, but then I saw the comment after that was like, wow, you call yourself a professional speaker? Nobody hire this person. So I think it's really important that our members remember that everything that you put on social is searchable. How do you guys protect your brand online, and what are some things that you do, and how do you not let the emotions get the best of you and make a post or something in the heat of the moment that you'll regret or that will cost you business? So let's start with Marquesa.
Yeah, and I can be a hothead, Mary Lou. So first of all, I talk to myself, and I'm proud of that. I have a conversation, calm down a little bit, especially a lot of the political posts. And then I'm a Real Housewives fan because I used to write for that world. So I can certainly let my emotions show, but I'm always thinking about, wait a minute, I'm in a huge professional world. And it's important that people respect me. So I want to choose what I do. So I'm careful. And here's a little technique I do, or strategy I do, is if I really want to let loose and tell you what I really think, I try to do that in private closed groups. Because within Facebook, unless the person is a member of a group, they can't, read what you're writing. So I try to leave it for those pieces, but on my regular Facebook page, I'm careful about what I put out there, because I know people are watching me, and clients are watching you, and a lot, they pay attention to what you're posting.
How about you, Robert?
Well, I ask a lot of questions. I try to lead the conversation instead of being responsive more than I try not to be responsive. And then there are some topics where I know that people are there's never going to be agreement, and I'm all for discussion. I love a healthy debate, but I'm one of those people, I stay away from politics. I stay away from some of those types of things, because everybody's got their opinion. They've got their side, and it makes people feel like they've got some sense of control in some ways to disagree with people and be hardcore behind a keyboard or behind a screen. So I'm really more of let me find out about you as a human being. What are some of the things that people are going through? And I'll ask a lot of questions and start conversations about that, and I'm not telling anybody don't discuss politics. That's just my avenue, or my guardrail or boundaries for myself, so that I can maintain the brand that I choose to have on social media.
Well, I think those are really key points, because when I used to hire speakers, I always did an internet search, and I always did a social media search, and even political posts, even if I agree with their viewpoint, I won't bring them in to my audiences in the past, because we had to be apolitical, like we couldn't take a side. Beth, what do you do? And then follow up with you too is, what are some tools we could use to search ourselves to see if there's anything we'd be ashamed of, and if so,
woo!
So a couple of things here. In my tech world, the most controversy that I deal with is Android and Apple. Like, seriously, and people get kind of upset about both of those things. But that's as far as the controversy that I have. And the way I look at it personally is that people are not going to hire me for technology, but they will not hire me for whatever views I have. They're not hiring me for my views on a whole bunch of other things. They're hiring for me for technology, but they will not hire me for my views on a whole bunch of things. So I have chosen to be quiet. This has been very hard. I have opinions just like everybody else does. And people who know me kind of know whether I'm left or right, or tall or short, or whatever. It's pretty obvious. But I don't put it out there, because I don't want somebody Googling me and saying, gosh, she is definitely red or blue or orange, or, oh, she's always orange, but she's definitely not who we want to have, even if she's never going to talk about those things. So that's really important to me. Little things you can do about your own stuff. You caught me off guard, because there are some things in the book that I can't remember, but y'all are all getting the book. I don't even have to pretend to suggest it to you. So, but there's some things in the book that you can look at that will help you with your reputation management. And little things just like Google searches. There's also something, this is not the same thing, but it's something to watch about your security and your presence and some of your privacy issues. There's an app called Jumbo, Jumbo, and it watches what you're putting on Facebook, what you're putting on Twitter, what Twitter knows about you, what Facebook knows about you, what all these things know about you, so that you can be aware of your privacy issues and what you're really sharing and what you might not want to share.
Awesome. I think that I would think as speakers, it would be really tough to not weigh in, like in the heat of the moment, especially if people are talking about your expertise or something you're passionate about. So another question for each of you, and it's yes or no. Do you have a fake account where you can do some posting?
No.
Marquesa?
No.
Robert?
I do not. I almost did one to see if I could, if my ex would flirt with me. That's a different conversation. No.
No, I'm like, I'm a Gen Xer, so it's hard enough to be on social media some days. So I can't imagine having a fake account to pay attention to.
Okay.
Yeah. And Mary Lou, I must say I'm a little shocked too by some, and Norm wrote this, some political views of some of my colleagues. I will say that. And it does hurt sometime. And so really got to watch what you post.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mary Lou, do you have a fake account? I just asked.
I do not.
Yes.
I found out about that from my niece a very long time ago. That used to be
Makes
a
you
thing.
wonder, right? It's called the Lou. No.
But I can't imagine, like for a living, you guys are vocal. You guys are expressing your opinion. You are paid to do so. So to have to keep your opinion to yourself, which you do, you need to be congruent with your brand and be professional, right? So one final question. What is, for each of you, what is your favorite thing to do for your client post-event? And you can only name one, so it's your favorite. Let's start with you, Beth.
If I could only name one thing that I do, it's send a picture of their attendees somehow, whether it be through an app, like a physical picture or a card or something. I love to send a picture of their attendees having fun with me to them so that they remember the event. It's kind of branded, has the flavor of the event, and it gives them something to remember the fun experience we had together.
Awesome. Marquesa?
Well, Beth stole mine. Linda Larson does something great with send out cards with what she said. You know what I like to do? I like to send them a cheat sheet or some kind of resource. I love to do that. And my clients tend to like it. So some kind of follow up. I also am a big picture person. Do not go to my Instagram. I'm just saying. So I love to take pictures with my clients and then I show them on Instagram. I'm a picture girl. I love pictures.
Awesome. And Robert?
I do a lot of different things, but one of the things that I love to share with clients is little video snippets of their audience having fun. So every once in a while, I'm not a comedian, but I have a funny once in a while. And when the audience is laughing and doing something amazing or crazy, I love to share that with the meeting planner or whoever invited me so that they know that their audience had a great time.
I love all three of those ideas. They are wonderful and they're a nice personal touch that keeps you top of mind with your clients. So whether they're going to refer you to somebody else or rebook you. So with that, Robert, Marquesa, Beth, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your insights, and thank you to everybody who turned out and tuned in tonight and participated. Again, you can review this recording along with all of the other NSA resources at nsaspeaker.org/COVID. Stay healthy, stay safe, and have a fantastic evening.